Hi, welcome to section 5, Testing Services. In this section we're going to dive into testing services. We're going to start off by learning the basics of unit testing, then we're going to test a get endpoint, followed by a post endpoint, followed by a delete endpoint, and that brings us to the end of this course. So welcome to 5.1, Basics of Unit Testing. In this video we're going to take a look at what unit testing is, and what tools are out there for Angular to create unit tests. So first of all, unit testing. Unit testing is the idea of testing the smallest piece of code available. So for example, that could be a method, or it could be just that a string is displayed correctly. And these tests all build up to confirm that a component behaves as we expect it to. For example, testing the app actually spins up the component, like I've just said, testing a title, or testing that our services get data, and that's what we're going to look at. So why will we create unit tests? When it comes to front-end development, you might just say, I can see there's a title on the screen. I can see that button gets data. Why do I need to create unit tests? Well, unit tests actually guards against breaking changes. So if you update one part of your application, you might see it working on the screen, but it might affect another part of your application, and these unit tests will confirm this. With unit testing, we can combine code coverage to see how much of the code base we're covering with our unit tests. There is also the idea of test-driven development. So whereas we've been creating our components and services as we go, you can actually create the test first, saying the type of behavior you expect, and then you can create the components and the services around those tests. And that way it can be a lot safer. You can ensure that your application is going to work as you've designed it. So Jasmine and Karma are two tools that are used to unit test Angular. And Jasmine is a testing framework. It's based on the idea of behavior-driven development. That's a subset of test-driven development. And the idea is to test the behavior of your application to ensure it behaves as you expect. It also describes the test in a human-readable way. And what this does is it can allow non-technical people to write these tests in a way that a user would expect them to work. Now, Karma is used with Jasmine because it's a test runner. It watches for changes you've made. So it updates on the fly as you're creating your tests and updating your tests, and it will show you the results in the browser, but also within the CLI. So in Angular, when you generate a component or a service, it automatically creates a spec file, and these are your unit test files, and that includes all the basics that you need to create some unit tests. It starts off by describing, and we're describing the app component, which is this component, and then what you can do is say that before each test runs, use the test bed to configure the testing module. So here we've got the declaration that this is the app component, but if we look in our template, in this case we use the app weather and app city search components, so we need to add those to our declarations. And also import the city search. Okay, and add those to the declarations. The next thing we can do is add import. So we need to import every module that this component is going to use. So I know that this component is going to use we add the browser module. And then it goes on to describing our tests. So our first test is here. With Jasmine we use it. Then we use a human readable sentence to describe what's happening. So it should create the app. So we go to the test bed and create a component, the app component. And then we debug the element and get the component instance. And then we use expect, and we pass an app. We expect it to be truthy. So we expect this app component to be spun up when our application runs. Then our second test, again, we should have a title as weather app. And we're going to expect the title to be weather app. Again, we're going to the component instance. Then we simply go app.title. We could do app.author or app.company. Lastly, we want to say it should render this title within the h1 tag, as we do. And then we create a new variable. We go into the fixture, we debug the element, and we go to the native element, which is all your HTML tags. Then we use the query selector to get the h1 tag. We expect the text content within that to contain welcome to the weather app. So there's our first three tests. Let's go ahead and run these tests. I suspect they're going to fail in a minute, but then we'll see why. You should also note that I've deleted the spec files from the city search and the weather components. The only ones that remain are the app components and the service. And we run the command ng test, which is going to start Jasmine and Karma. That's then going to open our browser, display the test within the browser, but also within the command line. Okay, we can see that our 3 tests plus our service test has failed. And that's because it's looking for the Mac card title. And that's because in our component, we're rendering the app weather component and the app city search component. And app weather does have the material card. So what we actually need to do in the test is add to the imports all the modules that we're going to use. So I'm just going to copy and paste these in. But we can see from our app.module.ts that this is what we use. Don't forget to add all the imports at the top. So let's go back and rerun our test. Okay, so we can see here we've got 3 green lights. That means our 3 tests have passed. We do have 1 failing test, but that's the automatically generated test within our weather service. And we're going to look at this in the next video.